Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to Being Conscious. From today's video, we'll start a series on a book which I brought a few months back, but this book is something which is truly mesmerizing and really exposes each one of us the potential each one of us has to truly untether the soul. The word untethered might seem uncommon. To put it very simply, the word untethered means to be absolutely unbound, to be absolutely free. The author Michael A. Singer is a very famous author in the realm of spiritual classics, and this book is one of that. So the plan I have for this particular book is to create a series of videos wherein we'll deep dive into each chapter and we'll break it down for the audience of Being Conscious to unravel the deep mysteries and the nuances which Michael Singer is talking about in the Untethered Soul. So he has basically divided this into 4 pillars, 4 segments. So the part 1 is called Awakening Consciousness, part 2 is called Experiencing Energy, part 3 is called Freeing Yourself, part 4 is called Going Beyond, and part 5 Living Life. So let's start with part 1, which is called as Awakening Consciousness. So basically what this really means, and in part 1 we have different chapters, right? So the very first chapter in this book talks about a constant companion which we all live with. If you have ever encountered, or if you ever have a friend in your life who is a chatterbox, who is constantly talking, and you always have some other thing which is coming out of that person, a constant input which that person is always giving you in terms of non-stop information. Obviously, no one would like to associate with such a person for a long time, especially for a long period of time on a continuous basis. Now, the same kind of analogy can be drawn to the voice in our head. We all live with the voice in our head which is continuously going on. There's a constant chatter which is always happening in our mind. If you closely observe this, you will understand that this constant chatter is so intense and so unnoticed that we almost feel that it is normal to have this constant chatter. And Michael talks about this at the very outset of the introduction in this book. He talks about this voice inside our head, and we really want to understand the mechanics, like what is the voice in the head, what is the purpose of the voice in the head. Firstly, we start to understand that the voice in our head is not us. We are witnessing that voice in our head. Now let's say that I have 3 objects in front of me. Let's say I have this mic, let's say I have this pen, and let's say I have another book in close vicinity. Now if I see these 3 objects, what immediately one can understand is that the fact that I am able to see these objects suggests that I am not this object. I can see this pen, that means I am not the pen. I can see the mic, that means I am not the mic. I can see the book, that means I am not the book. The same analogy can be used to understand the voice in your head, the voice in your mind. You can listen to the voice in your head. As you're listening to my video, you probably have 100 different opinions about the content I'm showcasing, about the personality you are witnessing in the other side of the camera. That voice in your head is basically what I'm referring to. That voice is not yours. You are the witness behind that voice. It's as simple as saying that if you are watching a movie, and there are so many different characters talking about delivering their own narrative of that movie, you're listening to that, but you're certainly not that. This is where the object-subject relationship comes about. Most of us don't even realize that the voice in our head is not necessarily us. The voice in our head has a purpose. The voice in our head is coming from the mind. And if you carefully observe and take a note of it, you will observe that most of the chatter which happens in our mind is non productive, is thoroughly irrelevant or useless. We all know about this. We all have heard about this from a lot of great spiritual saints and great spiritual classics. But what is it in the mind? What is it about this chatter which keeps it going? First reason why the chatter keeps going is because we have forgotten the subject-object relationship. We think that that chatter in our mind is not someone different, it is us. And the funny part is, and Michael talks about this in this chapter, he talks about polarities. He talks about the different voices. You have dual voices. One part of you says that you are a great person, and another part of you says that you're a horrible person. And Michael says that both of these perspectives, both of these narratives are counterproductive to you because both of them are selling a false narrative. In the sense that you might not like, you might despise the narrative which doesn't suit you, and you might actually love the narrative which suits you, which makes you more comfortable with it. Now, depending upon which narrative your mind is more comfortable at, it tends to rest around that narrative. And Michael says we need to transcend both these narratives because light cannot exist without darkness, and darkness cannot exist without light. They are two sides of the same coin. And once we understand the subject-object relationship, 50% of the work is already done. This is what modern day neuroscientists are calling metacognition, the ability to observe our mind objectively. And once we are able to objectively take a step back and view the chatter in the mind definitely doesn't stop immediately, but the momentum is immensely reduced. If you think about it as a fan, right? If you have an electric fan at your home, when you off the fan doesn't stop immediately. It has some amount of momentum due to its motion, but it stops after a gradual point of time. So this is what will happen. The mind doesn't stop immediately when you start watching it. And the more you try to stop it, the more powerful it becomes. So the trick here is not to forcefully stop it, but to just observe it without any judgments, without any preconceptions of what it should project and what it should not. And the second point which Michael is asking us to contemplate is to why at the first place does the mind have this constant chatter. He gives a very relatable example when he says, let's say you go out on a chilled winter evening and your mind immediately says that it's quite cold here. Now you go out and you experience cold, but do you think the mind really needed that constant chatter that it's cold here, it's cold here? The reason why the constant chatter is being played in your mind is because your mind wants to feel safe. The mind always wants to create an internal world based on the external stimulus. Now, the reason why it creates an internal world based on the external stimulus and starts playing it around is because it understands that in order for me to feel safe, I need to manipulate reality such that it suits my narrative. And when I manipulate reality such that it suits my narrative, I feel secure, I feel safe, I feel protected. And my identity is in control. Now, this is the reason why the mind always says, we have given a mind a task to constantly protect ourselves, to constantly look for solutions, figuring out the solutions to problems. Now, the problem is that we excessively believe believe that most of the problems in the world can be solved with the power of our thoughts, which is seldom the case. Now, if I sit down and expect the power of my thoughts that the sun will start rising in the west, that is a foolish way to function. That is not something which is going to happen. The point I'm trying to drive here, the point Michael is also suggesting, is not that we should stop searching for solutions. It's only that we should stop being neurotic about trying to find solutions, and we should understand the futility, the uselessness of the constant mental chatter. The constant mental chatter which does more harm than good. And once you realize this, once you create a distance between the mind and you, the witnessing consciousness, that is when you start experiencing the first glimpses of awakening, the first glimpses of what it means to be a free soul, a free consciousness. So this is the first chapter in the series called Awakening Consciousness from the book The Untethered Soul. Let me know how you liked this video. I hope you understood the crux of this video, to constantly observe that inner chatter, and the reason why the inner chatter is happening, because it gives you a false sense of security, a false sense of control. And when the world doesn't happen the way you want it, the mind constantly complains, judges, criticizes, so that you feel good about it. Because you cannot control the way the world works. The way world works, if it's not aligned with your narrative of good and bad, the way you can feel secure, the way you can feel comfortable is by judging, complaining, or criticizing that event, a situation. And that is the root cause of mental chatter. So basically, two reasons to sum it up. One, that we have forgotten the subject-object relationship between the mind and us, the witnessing consciousness. And two, we have this overarching need to be in control of everything which happens in our world. What we need to realize is there are a lot higher forces out there which are doing things which are far beyond our understanding and comprehension. And this will give rise to true humility. I hope you really enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comment section how you enjoyed the video and what are the tips I can follow to improve the content in my channel. Thank you so much, and I'll meet you in the next video. Bye.